Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Warships from Guinea Titan, and in this case I have acquired the South Carolina, the USS South Carolina. God bless her and all who sail in her, a Tier 3 American battleship, and it's the first tier I think you can get battleships. Was it Tier 2? Just had a quick check there on the wiki, it's Tier 3, and it's the first battleship that you can get, well, on the American line in World of Warships, and it's a completely different experience. There's definitely very distinct and different playstyles between battleships, destroyers and cruisers. Far more distinct playstyles than there are in World of Tanks, even though you mightn't think, you're all in open water and you're on ships and they just fire bombs at each other. But yes, there is actually a very different style of play associated with battleships, and it's forced upon you by the nature of the battleships themselves. They're pretty big. This one's kind of slower, feels slow anyway in comparison to, I suppose, cruisers. And the guns are the things that really force the difference. The guns fire once every 30 seconds. 30-second reload. 2 turret mounted, 2 turrets forward, 2 turrets aft, 2 guns in a turret, and like I said, they have a 30-second reload, so each turret's a 30-second reload. And they do a lot of damage if they land and hit, so there's but the dispersion is more. And I think that's common to all battleships, but there's a far higher premium, therefore, on accurate shooting in battleships. But there's also a far higher premium on target prioritization, getting the right target, getting the one that you're going to get a lot of shots off at. Because the other thing you don't want to be doing in battleships is swinging your turrets around too much. When you pick on a target, you want to stick with it until you've done a significant amount of damage and you have nothing else to shoot at. And then move your turret if you can possibly only move your turret when you have to. And it also considers massive consideration on your sailing pattern, because it's something like 45 seconds to turn the turrets 180 degrees. And they don't rotate 360 anyway. The ship's superstructure stops them from doing that. So if I'm going kind of obliquely towards my target, I'm not quite a full broadside, but I'm a full broadside now, say, to that target. So if I was to swing the ship around, reverse my course, I would actually manage to turn the ship and get the ship back into a reverse course faster, considerably faster, than my turrets would actually track the enemy ship in its movement. So you don't want that. You want to keep the guns firing as much as you can. You also tendency, I think, and it's sensible, I think, in my part, but I have a tendency to have decided more or less to ignore destroyers where at all possible. Try not to be anywhere near them if I can, but enemy destroyers are not something I'm going to have to shoot at. That's a job from my cruisers and other destroyers. Now you can see there a citadel hit on the enemy chester and took away half his hit points. These things can really screw up your day when the shots land and they come in and they hit your ship, but you just don't get to fire them that often. So like I said, priority being able to accurately shoot, predict the movement of your targets and get your shots off on target is a big premium on battleships. And steering your battleship to keep your guns bearing on the target is actually also a big premium aspect of playing with battleships, because if you turn around in a cruiser, it's not that long. I mean, you have a 6-second or 8-second reload or something like that on the cruisers that I've been playing so far, and if you turn the guns around, I don't know, there may be 20 seconds to swing the turrets or something. It's not a big deal, but in this case the amount of time taken for this sort of stuff to happen is a big deal. That there wasn't even a citadel hit, I still did a fair amount of damage to that ship. Didn't get the kill. I don't know if you get the kills as often as cruisers will with the battleships, but you will do a big amount of damage when you hit them. So probably a higher priority on situational awareness than what you call it, than cruisers again as well, because you can't drive your way out of trouble. It's not like it's more like a heavy, slow tank with a derp gun in World of Tanks, where situational awareness is, so we say, a very high priority in making yourself effective, whereas the cruisers and destroyers are more like light and medium tanks. But I think these are very, should we say, loose analogies, and the distinction's actually sharper, much sharper in World of Warships in the different classes of ships than similar distinctions in World of Tanks. There's a lot of tanks that break the distinction. There's a lot of heavy tanks that are quite fast and mobile. Some of the French ones come to mind, although I haven't played them as a player. I've been on the receiving end of them, but even some of the Russian ones, the IS-4 is fairly mobile, heavy tank. Doesn't have a great gun, but it has a high degree of mobility. There's another shot there that did a fair bit of damage before it just took out the enemy ship, without being a citadel hit. So I'm kind of manoeuvring here to keep the island, because I know the enemy are in force in the central of the map, and I want to sort of split them out one at a time, rather than facing the whole fleet together. So I'm kind of using the island, keeping it between myself and the bulk of the enemy force, and then just using the opportunity to get some shots out on the ships that I'm targeting. Now, arguably I've come out a little too far, and I have attracted the attention of the destroyer, but kind of ignoring the destroyer. I should have probably been paying more attention to the destroyer and manoeuvring a bit more. The enemy cruiser has decided not to sit out there in the open and take shots from the likes of me, when he can go behind the island and take cover there. And I didn't follow him in. I didn't even attempt to fire the last round of shots at him, because again, it's far more of a priority that I hit something with my shots than attempt to chancy shots on a cruiser that would be disappearing behind an island. The enemy battleship that I'm firing at here is probably doing something similar, and because he's stopped in the water as well, and I'm getting some shots onto him, and his guns are not pointing at me, so it's a good target to be shooting at. So he's underway at the moment, and I am getting shots out. The destroyer is definitely coming from me. I can see him coming in now. And I am... well, I'm moving forward. Well, I was moving into reverse there, so I've actually pushed the ship going forward again. I might actually be better off if I'd stayed going in reverse, because I'm now going to take a torpedo. And I'm going to take a second torpedo, because he's turned there to launch right in front of me. But because he stopped to launch that second torpedo, my secondary gun batteries were able to focus him down and take him out. Now, I didn't use my repair kit when I had been on fire. I waited for the first torpedo hit to use it. So I didn't take flooding damage from the second torpedo hit, and I used my heal straight afterwards. So I've actually managed to regain a substantial chunk of the hit points that I've lost. Not all, but maybe about still a nice number of hit points again, and I have potentially multiple uses of the heal. I've probably not been using the heal, should we say, enough. Initially I wasn't getting stuck in the big fights. Now I'm not sure how much that translates back into playing in co-op battles. The enemy ships tend to get stuck in, where at least at low levels, whereas if I play in random battles, then I don't know how that kind of gameplay would fare in the real world. I've given broadside to these two battleships because I didn't want to crash into my cruiser who was coming towards me in the other direction. Plus I want to get around this guy on the outside. I want to have him on my right so that my guns will continue to be pointing at him when he crosses me, rather than I passing him on the inside where his guns will be pointing at me and my guns will be pointing off into space, trying to frantically swing the turrets around to bring them to bear again on the battleship. So I've gotten some hits in. It's the secondary batteries I think that are doing most of the work at the moment. Not actually getting too many hits in. but it's questionable as to whether I will actually. Well, 2 batteries are fired there. I think I missed completely the forward batteries, and she's blown up the fires. I think it was taking her out. So that is it. Game over. The last enemy ship is down, and you know, we get a result. And because it's co-op battles, I'm not terribly pushed. I am trying to focus on just learning the ropes of battleships and how to improve my accuracy and the gunnery. I think the key one is gunnery, getting your guns, picking targets, target priority, keeping your guns in action and not getting caught in situations where you have to be rapidly switching targets from one side to another. So there is a sort of incentive, I suppose, for players to keep their distance because of that. So a different and distinct experience from cruiser play or from destroyer play, and I think so far over the 3 of them I would probably prefer the cruiser play. I think it is the sort of most engaging play so far. I can't really speak from a lot of experience. I've only tried the American cruiser line, I've only tried a couple of cruisers. The one aspect of the game I suppose that I have not yet tried really is carrier play, and I don't see myself getting into that anytime in the near future. It looks like even on the new carrier revisions that are a lot simpler than the older type game, it sounds a bit complicated, and it sounds like a game where you'd want to have a reasonable amount of experience in order to get the best out of your character or your carrier out of the aircraft, because it's not just a question of vectoring aircraft onto enemy ships. It's which ships do you prioritize, what makes where do you intervene? How do you intervene with your carriers? How do you light up ships for your allies? Stuff like that. So that aspect of carrier play, I think, it's much more impactful, I think, on the overall performance of your team, and therefore has a higher degree of responsibility than any of the other forms of play that I've tried so far. Thank you for watching anyway. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like and a share. Feel free to comment, and if you have anything you want to ask, feel free to ask in the comments. I'll catch you all again soon. If you have not already subscribed, please do so. Bye for now.